Home of the brave, a group of neocons like Bill Kristol, ex-FBI officials, and wealthy corporate GOP lobbyists is kicking in $1 million to promote No Kings. Speaking of fake and contrived, the No Kings rallies. So that is the headline from CNN today right now. There are protests going on all over the country. Large crowds gather at No Kings protests to rally against Trump. So, I mean, okay, the fact that you can even have this protest and it's not being, maybe they're all being cracked down on by this National Guard right now. I don't know. But that kind of shows you that we don't have a king. And that's one of the things I think the biggest drama points with someone like Trump is like there's this idea that he's like a threat to democracy. And it's like, bro, people voted for him. He won the election. So democracy is apparently a threat to democracy. But also it goes back to this like idea of stochastic terrorism where we're like otherizing our political opponents now, like on a regular basis, to the point where I think most people are over it. And it's like, I know good people who are like Trump, and I'm not going to like call them all Nazis, but it's still a very thick atmosphere, And so you have something like this, which is clearly a contrived, event. It's like, what does this stand for? It's like the Pussy Hat protests. The first time Trump got elected is like, okay, like what are you guys really advocating for though? Because as we're going to get into in a minute, a lot of the stuff that people have been scaremongered about with Trump, like abortion and IVF, is not real. He breaks from the like old school Republican ways on a lot of that stuff because he's a fucking Manhattan, executive. Like he's not a country bumpkin who's like Jesus. He's definitely pandering to that demographic. Don't get me wrong, but he's not one of those people. So to keep going with this is very interesting concept here. So this is what I'm showing you here is the latest headline today for the CNN, homepage. This is the biggest news of the day, No Kings. So I'm going to cut to yours and my favorite political commentator, Jimmy Dore, because he has the best summarization of what this actually is, I think. So
was, not that Joe Biden was credibly accused of rape.
I know.
But not that, but Donald Trump was anti-woman. So they had a women's march, which was about absolutely nothing. There was no issue they wanted. There was no policy they wanted enacted. There was nothing. It was a big nothing. And what it was to show that America is divided. And they're doing it again, Mel. So there's the No Kings, no thrones, no crowns, no kings protests, which is going to be on October 18th. It says millions of us are rising again to show the world America has no kings and the power belongs to the people. And here's the map from their website. That's going to be all the No Kings rallies, which, by the way, funded by George Soros.
Yes.
And here's what they say it is. The No Kings protests are a series of nationwide demonstrations in the United States.
I know Jimmy gets into this, but I just want to say this because I was explaining this to one of my relatives because he's like, yeah, I heard those No Kings rallies are funded by Soros. And it's like, yes, technically, but I did a breakdown of this before. It's not like Soros is like, hey, let's make a rally called No Kings. Here's a bunch of money, like, which is how they make it sound. What happens is Soros funds things like the Tides Foundation, which is like a big NGO, and that organization distributes money to, in the case I did before, it was about Jewish Voice for Peace because they were trying to say like, oh, Soros is funding all the college protests against Israel. No, Soros is funding foundations that give money to NGOs that happen to be protesting Israel now. And what that whole thing was, at the time was kind of like a bulletin, a subliminal message to all the donors like, hey, you better stop giving money to these people that fund Israel protests. That was at the time. But again, they make it sound like Soros is out here directly funding these protests, and that's not how it works. Soros just throws money at shit, and then these other little NGOs kind of distribute it to the causes that they think, are going to be the most effective.
in 2025 to oppose perceived authoritarian actions by President Donald Trump's second administration. The first major wave occurred on June 14th, dubbed No King's Day, and coinciding with Trump's blah, 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 blah. So it's all about organizers framed it as a defense of democracy. So after the Democrats had no primary, after they sued to get third parties off the ballot, now they're the ones standing up for democracy. Isn't that wild? Because they're not for democracy.
No.
So, and I just want to show you, and it says a second wave, No Kings 2, which is the one coming up on the 18th, is scheduled for October 18th, building on the initial momentum amid ongoing government shutdown debates and the criticisms of Trump's policies. Protests emphasize peacefully assembly, de-escalating training, blah, blah, blah. But conservatives have labeled it AstroTurf, top-down and orchestrated rather than grassroots, which it is.
Yes.
Which it is.
Easily proved.
This is not. There wasn't a bunch of workers got together. There's a bunch of George Soros funded and NGOs and the ACLU, which has turned to complete crap since 20.
Keith Olbermann was actually asked what he thought about the No Kings protest. Here's what he had to say.
Now, I'll confess that I have licked Joe Biden's dick all the way through since 1975.
Thank you, Keith. So I'm gonna duck out there, but I don't know if you remember this, and I covered this before too. Mike Benz, the cyber guy, he very clearly said, that's how, if Trump gets elected, what all the energy is going to go into is civil unrest, like the BLM stuff, the summer of love, quote unquote, like all that kind of stuff, where it's like, okay, well, now that Trump's president, here's what we can do to kind of like derail his agenda or like turn the public against him and that kind of stuff. And it's like, a lot of the public's already against him, but I think the thing again with Trump is like the thing that gets me the most mad and makes me like one of those people who's like, fuck you. Like I like Trump, just the more that the status quo comes out like, oh, it's terrible. The more I'm like, yeah, okay. The more I like the guy. I think that it's lost on them that this kind of shit is just making people, and also there's so much nuance in it because the difference between Trump and the Democrats is massive in the sense that the Democrats would just be doing most of the same shit, the bad shit anyway that Trump does, like the Venezuela shit we're going to get into in a minute, the like forever wars. Like the Democrats would be doing that and gaslighting you about it. Like one controversial thing Trump did was change the Department of Homeland Security, or what was it, Defense, to the Department of War. I love that because that sounds more honest to me. Oh, this guy's from the Department of War. Like, when the Department of War is involved, it's serious shit. It's like, okay, we have to fucking question the fuck out of this now because it's the Department of War. Whereas when it's this Orwellian, it's the Department of Defense. It's like, yeah, defense is somehow like going and bombing other countries and taking their oil. Interesting, isn't it? So it's stupid and like what most people think is dumb, mindless shit. And the more like these people get upset at the challenging of like norms or like decorum stuff. Like I saw a report before I came on about like Trump said the F word at a press conference, and it's like, bro, what year is this? Like, it's so funny to see the Democrats turn around and become the like pearl clutching religious right people because of Trump. They just, it's such a funny dynamic because they don't know how to grapple with it. Where in the past they could just go, that guy's bad. But then Trump is actually like to the left of them on a lot of stuff as in the new Republican era. So it's like, they're caught in this weird place where they actually have to stand for something that might alienate some people and like be serious about a political agenda. Like they might have to stand. And that's why you see a guy like Mamdani in the New York, like he pisses off a large segment of the public. And there's obviously very organized propaganda to like make him look worse than he is. But like, that's the kind of honesty that you need to have in today's world, I think, to win in politics. And I think the Democrats still live in this era where they're trying to be everything to everyone. And you can't do that anyway. You're going to have to anymore. You're going to have to piss people off. And I think that's why the Trump kind of like era is so elusive, to the Democrats because they're still stuck in this old mentality of like, oh, we got to play politics on this instead of just taking a strong stand that might piss off like some people and just accepting that you're not going to ever be able to please everyone. And you just have to like actually fucking stand for something and follow through on that, you know? So here's what a lot of the more intelligent voices in the political universe had to say about this. We'll start with my boy Postopoulos here. He has to say clown work because here's Hillary Clinton. In 2 days, be a part of the largest peaceful protest in modern American history. Join No Kings this Saturday at an event to push back on Trump's power grabs and make it clear we don't do monarchs here. What's so funny about that is Hillary Clinton was the president's wife who thought she deserved to be coronated as the new queen of America because her husband was once a president that was liked by a lot of people. Then you have Nick from Revolutionary Blackout, who I always appreciate Nick's takes because he's one of the more militant voices out there. And I always appreciate that because there's very few people, like I said before, with the balls to actually stand for something that might piss off some people, like having the balls to fucking say something that might build people be like, oh, you're a terrible. No, fuck you. Like you're propagandized. Most of the time, that's what it is. But here's Nick. He says, never in a million years would you ever catch me supporting a protest in alignment with the military industrial complex. And just to like, it's the yellow ribbon thing to support. So here's Max Blumenthal. I don't know if you remember with it, to go back a little bit. The yellow ribbon thing was basically during the Iraq war, it was like to support our troops. We had the yellow ribbons for that. So here's Max. Home of the Brave, a group of neocons like Bill Kristol, ex-FBI officials, and wealthy corporate GOP lobbyists is kicking in $1 million to promote No Kings and steer it to the pro-war center-right. Their first ad bizarrely equates Donald Trump with Hugo Chavez. So that's the new thing too. It's so funny to like watch Democrats attempt to like call Trump a communist dictator. You know, like that's their new thing. Like he's a communist. Like, and again, it's so funny how our political kind of dialogue in this country works. It degenerates to, you know, right wingers calling everyone commies and left wingers calling everyone fascists, and neither side knows what the other means. Like you couldn't, like, you know, the liberals calling right wingers fascists are like, if you don't take the jab, you deserve to be denied medical care and fired from your job, which is like the absolute definition of fascism, being forced into an experimental medical treatment, you know, versus, you know, and those same people will be like, well, I deserve bodily autonomy for abortion. Okay, well, like, how does that make sense? Then the flip side again is the conservatives who are like, oh, you don't deserve bodily autonomy when it's your baby that you're pregnant with, but I do when it's a vaccine I don't want to take, you know? So there's always this dynamic exists. So we'll just fight each other over the dumb nuance of shit like that. When it's like, the reality is, to me, if you're consistent, these questions are easy to answer. Yes, bodily autonomy is important in both the whether or not you take a vaccine or whether you are pregnant. It's none of anyone else's fucking business what I do with my body. If you're a woman, you could argue that, especially if you're married to a husband, what you do with that child, it is also kind of, someone else does kind of have a say in it. But I think that say goes out the window if you were raped or abused or, you know what I mean, sexually assaulted or something like that. It's like, it's a complicated issue where, you know, they just want us to fight each other about the nuance of those things, when I think at the core of it, we'd all largely agree. And I appreciate anyone who's consistent on those. So here's Max again. No Kings, the Democrat-oriented protest group organizing anti-Trump rallies this Saturday, urges protesters to wear yellow ribbons inspired by the NATO-backed color revolution in Hong Kong and the Ukraine proxy war. No Kings messaging does not include opposition to U.S.-Israeli wars.